the Academic and Student Affairs Committee of the board. Had, I think, 6 or more board members present, so that's terrific. I want to thank our board members for taking time for joining us for this. We have the combined Finance and Facilities Committee. I did not quite got all the names right, and I believe the Audit and Risk Committee today. The purpose of this is mostly to hear your feedback. So we're going to try to have fewer people talking at you. And I'm here for as a reference to maybe help answer questions. On the line, we have some of the folks who typically would attend some of these meetings, as well as some of the leadership of the strategic planning groups and some representation from the vision teams. The stated goal was to try to take a look at which aspects of the strategic plans have intersections with the various governance committees of the board. Yesterday, we certainly tried to focus on academic and student affairs, but it was also an opportunity for board members to ask questions about other parts or give feedback on other parts of the plan as well. We know that this has been a lot to try to squeeze these into your calendar in a relatively short time frame. And so we understood that not everybody would be able to join us. So sometimes we'll have board members slipping into one of the other committee members. Again, we really appreciate all the engagement that we've had. With that, I'm going to turn it over to David to outline a little bit with our process. And I think Chris will have a little bit to give our board members a little bit of opportunity to hear a little bit of the broad overview and give you a chance to look at the plan a little more carefully as well. So David?
Thank you, President Jim. And I would accentuate, it's really exciting to be able to have a midstream look. So to be able to bring board members into an ongoing conversation. So we've got a number of our co-chairs here from the vision teams who are hard at work as we speak on developing the plan. And so what you've received here, again, is midstream, is in development, but is coming down to land the plane, to use a very relevant example for our board member, Mike Stolfus, getting close to landing the plane, but haven't landed it yet, isn't fully cooked. So I think as others can kind of situate themselves to the documents that have been circulated, and especially our board members who we know are busy and may not have had a chance to take a look at it yet, and I'm still admitting a few people to this to the room now. I thought I'd just give a very quick kind of high-level overview of where things are starting to come together in the plan. Of course, with the Madison Promise, we want to have an ambitious plan to redefine the role of public universities at a time where we need to strengthen trust in higher education. And we think this is an opportunity for JMU to cut through and differentiate ourselves based on our positioning, certainly in the market, but positioning in society at large. The promise is accentuated, and one of the pieces that has gained some of the most attention by guaranteed opportunities and outcomes. So at the heart of the plan is a bold commitment. JMU will offer an employment guarantee that graduates who actively engage in the Madison experience will receive a positive post-graduation outcome within 1 year. And if they don't, then we're going to stand behind them. We'll provide career coaching, networking opportunities, some sort of additional education at no cost. And we're working through some of those logistics. And I know some of those vision team co-chairs are here with us. And then a second guarantee, an employer guarantee. If an employer identifies gaps in what they would expect a JMU graduate would have in their professional competencies, that we would also provide some sort of coursework or coaching at no cost as well. And so this reflects our confidence and our commitment to our graduates at a time when there are some questions about ROI. And so we're pushing through some of that. Madison Promise is also emphasizing a set of signature power skills that will enable all graduates to build abilities in communication, critical thinking, ethical reasoning, civil discourse, collaboration, self-awareness. And certainly these are things that are durable in today's world, what students need for jobs. And also as we look to, these are qualities that it's difficult for AI to replace. These are even the skills that are needed much more so now as that's accelerating. A couple examples in that the power skill piece, and then some of the other pieces of the Madison Promise being assuring work-based learning opportunities for all students. Those are some of the other things you'll see in this draft plan that really was developed in January and is now undergoing lots of revisions. Another key piece is being a new kind of research university, where we will expand our research capacity through an emphasis on our hallmark commitment to the undergraduate experience. We think that undergraduate research is really a path to our way, building our infrastructure and emphasizing research, especially that integrates undergraduates into that experience alongside new research centers, collaboration with scholars, interdisciplinary research that is really a signature for JMU. Partnerships also that drive regional and national impact. So we're going to expand our role in the Commonwealth. We want to be the Commonwealth's preferred partner, connecting students and faculty and staff with industry, government, nonprofits, building pipelines of talent, supporting economic development, and translating discovery into real world solutions. We want to be a national leader. We want to be a leader in the Shenandoah Valley here as an anchor institution. Building an innovative campus community, supporting all of those ambitions will be transforming our campus environment, designed to have the latest thinking, integrating learning, living, research, community collaboration. Of course, a really exciting look at our campus development, especially in mid-campus, expanding student housing, looking at the student union, stadium expansion, all of those pieces. And so it's really a look for us at the future, positioning JMU as we evolve to meet the changing expectations of students, employers, and society. That's kind of how a lot of it is starting to come together. We're getting more clarity on what a number of those pieces are going to look like. So as I've situated us, I'm going to pass it off to Chris to share a little bit more about what the vision teams are currently doing. And we'd love to ask some questions where vision teams would love some more thoughts on where the board is with their current work.
Thanks, David. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Oram. I'm the Executive Director for Planning, Analytics, and Institutional Research at JMU. And so part of my role is to help facilitate the process of this plan's development. Yeah, I think just to hit on a couple of things that David has touched on right now, just so that we have the context for this conversation. And David mentioned this, but the draft that you have in front of you has been a draft that's been made available to you, is a draft of the plan that's been in existence really since November, with some minor modifications in January, but it essentially is the draft that we've been working off of for the last couple of months. There have been a lot of conversations and socializing these ideas with the campus. And it's been also the questions that have emerged that we've given to these vision teams. And again, these vision teams are 7 teams of faculty, staff, and students that have really been working, these small teams that have really been under a sprint since January to grapple with some relatively heavy, large issues and questions, and taking a lot of time to really think through those intentionally and thoughtfully and come up with some really good strategies, or where there's a part of the plan where it's more about how do we implement this idea. They've been working with what would it take to implement the idea fully, or if an idea is so big and its concept that maybe we need to rethink it or think about how would we approach it through a different lens. They've been tasked with looking at that as well. And so for these conversations, really why we've invited some of all of the vision team co-chairs to be a part of the conversation is a lot of what they're working on. We've shared with you all some summaries of the work that they're doing and some questions that they may have about the work. For the purposes of today, we're trying to focus on the finance and physical development, the focus of the committees that are present here. But really, we welcome this as a conversation about the plan itself and the type of the work that's undergoing to really take it to the next stage of development, which will be coming shortly in the next couple of weeks as we take all the feedback we've gathered, all the reports of the vision teams will be supplying by next week, and then synthesizing all that information into a next version of the plan. And ideally, that a version of that plan will be what you all can react to as well at the retreat coming up. So this is kind of like a first bite at the apple to be able to provide some of that feedback as we continue to refine the plan with board input. I think David and I thought that it might be a good way of starting the conversation just by asking, for those of you who maybe have had a chance to look through the plan and maybe spend a little bit more time with it or some of the materials prior to the meeting, is there initial feedback or thoughts, particularly through the lens of finances or the physical development aspects of the plan, and just really open it up to thoughts generally that might help guide our work?
I'll also add, we obviously have audit risk compliance. I think a number of our board members are a huge responsibility of board is risk. And so level of risk that we should be thinking about and comfort level with that. I know we certainly have talked a lot about as senior leadership being more comfortable with risk taking and the tolerance for that. But even just more broadly, principles that you or kind of lessons on what you're thinking about in terms of how JMU takes risk in certain areas, more calculated risk in these areas.
There's a couple ideas. First is kind of supply and demand. And I'm operating on this assumption that the cliff is not a cliff. And for those of you who are like, no, the cliff is a cliff, please don't be offended. That it's more of a supply, I mean, a demand issue. And that's number one. Number two, I'm operating on the assumption that we're basically in process of creating a product, if you will, which is going to be in increased demand measured by a number of applications. And so the first question, I got two questions. First question has to do with, I just don't know. Have there been any lookout for the next, say, 25 years regarding how that demographic curve, when it flattens, and the kind of the investments, the vision rather, that we have as it has to do with, well, as it's articulated, risks vis-a-vis demand? Or have we looked through all of that and we're actually like, nope, we're good to go? And Jim, if you want to hit it, it's fine too.
Yeah, the whole point of the strategic plan is to position us better for the future. And my brain is naturally out 15 to 20 years. I've said that for quite some time. I agree with your characterization. We have a demand problem, and there are fewer high school graduates in many parts of the country, including the Northeast and Midwest. Less so in the South. Virginia isn't hit as hard, and then we have a challenge with people's perception of the return on investment from higher education. It's been my observation from the past 15 to 20 years, the strongest institutions are getting stronger. I would categorize JMU as a strong institution, but I'd like to strengthen it. I'd like to be even stronger. And part of that is evidenced by more and more students applying and wanting to be a Duke. Frankly, more and more faculty and staff who are applying and wanting to be a part of this Duke community as well. Both of those are very important. So projection of the strength is important. Also, as you put it in market terms, I've tried to make sure that this plan will make us more distinctive, that we can set ourselves out from the crowd. What are the things we can cut to the static that is going out around higher education? We're hoping, and so far the feedback has been phenomenal, particularly from external audiences, around this notion of making bold promises, that we will stand behind it. And so this entire plan, from my perspective, including the 2040 vision, is going to the heart of what your question is. It's to make sure that we remain strong and we strengthen our reputation. Rankings are rankings, but there's perceived value. And again, if we talk about it in market terms, that perceived value is one of the things that'll drive us to us. The risk, I believe, is in doing nothing. And we can argue whether these are the right steps or not, but being complacent is not the right response to an intensifying marketplace for higher education. So I guess I'll leave it there. There are very few risks. So even the very assertive process that we have to build out housing, we're going to be testing the market with every single development. When the first set of buildings come online and we required to charge more for them because it's new construction that does cost more, we will be testing that and getting feedback. We are not going to just simply continue to plow, and we'll stop building if we think that the market is going to change or we've underestimated it. One set of metrics would suggest we should be building 1,000 beds a year for the next 10 years. It's a lot of beds, but again, each one of those are off ramps. We can see how the student body, how parents and others are reacting to it, and we can stop at any given point. But we would, frankly, I believe, will end up building far more than that. Because I think more students are going to want to stay on campus, and I believe there will be growth at the institution. The guidance I've given to Melinda as vice president for enrollment, and I've told this to the entire team, I've said it in big public forums as well, my goal would be that we would grow between 1% and 2% a year over year. That's very modest, but also allows resources to make necessary investments back into the institution in its people, in its academic programs, and other innovative things that we'd like to attempt to do.
The perfect sec. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Except you're as time goes on, what I'm feeling is that everything's getting much finer in the ability to communicate the ideas. Second one, which is you segue to this. When we first began discussing this in the fall, this kind of investment model. This goes back to your question, Chris, with regards to financial. This investment model that is becoming a tried and true model. It's been done in other locations. I'm a fan of it, and I was a little concerned regarding how the process would be for others to become a fan of it. I'm just super curious. So this is financial, right? The financial question. I'm just super curious regarding the progress. And Jim, I think this is for you. I don't know if you, when I say the progress, I mean the progress with regards to the understanding of the strength of the model.
So I think internally we certainly are seeing things among the vision team leaders. Michael, we meet about weekly with all of the heads of the 7 vision teams together. And what they're finding and discovering, and particularly by having them all in the same room, is the number of overlaps and how the plan is really interdependent. One thing drives the other piece, which is frankly, I mean, that was by design, but it's become far more deeply ingrained in each other as we move forward. I think that we're in a very strong position, and I think that we're getting better with our storytelling. Part of the challenge is we didn't want to get too far out on storytelling until people had had the opportunity to have feedback for the plan. I've actually got another conversation with marketing communications this afternoon, and we're going, given the feedback we've had, we're going to start building out what this would look like if the board approves it in April. So we're going to work ahead, and we're trying to do that in all things. We don't want to do sequential work. We want to work in parallel, and then we'll adjust it if there are further adjustments made by the board, either at the retreat or at the April board meeting. I don't know if I got to your question. There was a little noise out in the hallway. I'm in Pensacola for the basketball tournaments, and the walls are kind of thin around here. So
no, the interest of the question was answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike, just putting a finer point on some of the question on kind of enrollment projections, you're right to talk about not necessarily a cliff. And so 2025 kind of hit the peak of the number of high school graduates, about a 13% increase over the previous decade. And the next decade is projected to be only about a 6 or 7% kind of nationally decline. So even above the 10 years before that, where that's at. So better in Virginia than the Midwest, better than Virginia, in other places in the country. And I think just accentuating what the president's talking about with the stronger are going to get stronger. And so, but I think it's just helpful to know when we're talking about what kind of decline and where is it actually kind of bringing us back to in terms of the size of what we're looking at in terms of number of high school graduates. I don't know if Provost Colvard, if you have any thoughts on the kind of planning for that piece and enrollment projections or enrollment cliff, how academic planning is thinking through that.
Thanks, David. We're in regular conversation with Melinda, and of course, Michael, we can only predict out about 18 years, and then beyond that, we'll see what happens. But we have a good sense of demographics. I will share that depending upon our national stance on immigration, that also impacts this considerably, because if we do return to a more substantial influx, or it's easier for us to get international students in, that also impacts recruiting and enrollments for us as well. So it is a complicated picture, but I am in regular conversation with Melinda, and her folks are right on top of it.
Chris, did you want to look at some of those other the questions that
I had a question? I think we heard at the board meeting in February, there was a question raised. I believe it may have been at the strategic planning committee, but I can't recall where it was. But this idea of the guarantee, and I think we could talk about this as a guarantee generally, right? And anywhere in business, if you offer a guarantee, that means that you're willing to kind of put up some level of financial collateral in exchange for providing something. And so one of the, I think, concerns or thoughts we had or that were shared was just be cautious of the risk associated with offering a guarantee or any in that nature. And so I'm just curious if maybe, you know, and Michael, I think you may be the only board member here, so I guess I'll direct the question to you. But you know, as we do you have advice or specific advice about how we need to consider and evaluate the risk associated with offering these guarantees that we're thinking about?
Yeah, very quickly. I think guarantees are like phenomenal. I think it does two things. First, it sends a signal to the customer that we believe deeply in whatever it is, whatever product or service it is that we're selling. And then number two is it creates extraordinary data from which we can then continuously do incremental improvements. And so, actually the third one is, you guys I'm sure know this already, and that is that typically when you create a guarantee, the naysayers are like, oh my goodness, this is going to cost us X, and then it turns out to be 1/20th of X. And that's usually how it works out. So, but for me, the most powerful reason behind creating a guarantee is it will focus the energy of a few thousand people on quickly determining what needs improvement. And then that energy will be used to make those improvements. I'm a huge fan of the concept. And I'm delighted, Jim. I don't know the origin, I don't know the genesis rather of where this entered into the discussion, but I'm delighted that that it began, and I'm delighted that it's taken root.
Jim's too humble to say it. Really, this one was, I think, one of his ideas for us to really explore, and you know, deep campus engagement with it. Well, you know, honestly, I think of all the ideas, maybe the most vetted in terms of people talking about it, talking about risks, talking about, you know, what's possible. But you know, that's been neat. Mike, I'm curious if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, because you already are on the spot. You've got a JMU student, current JMU student. You have a son who's thinking about college, thinking about JMU's positioning in a crowded higher ed marketplace, differentiating ourselves. What are the things that you think about when you think about, obviously, JMU strengths, but areas of sharpening differentiation? Again, as somebody who's both a business owner, but also fresh in your mind is how 17 and 18-year-olds choose a college, and also how sophomores and juniors, you know, think about how they're progressing through JMU.
Thank you, David. For me, it's all relational. When Gabriel went on the campus, he's a sophomore now. By the way, go Dukes, everybody. Just please, from me to you, everybody on the call, receive my gratitude for everything that you do to create. It's about creating a container, right? It's creating this atmosphere. And it's a relational atmosphere. And it is one where it's just singularly unique. And oh, by the way, then you got all these other bonuses, right? It's a beautiful place. It's well done. You've got phenomenal staff. You guys know the whole list. So the quick answer, David, is when Gabriel took his tour, that was the hook. And then a couple of months later, he was accepted, and he was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Now I have to make a decision. And relationally, we happened to be with a board member at dinner, and something completely just relational away from nothing to do with JMU. And because of the discussion, Gabriel sent his deposit that night. So it's relational. The second one then is Lucas. He is, I know there are a couple people on here that are okay with this, you know, university across the mountain. And so I'll say this positively. And that is that he set on it, and he set on it because the kids that he went to school with, this is Virginia. It is because the kids that he went to school with, he's at Eastern Mennonite, that a bunch of them have gone there. And so it's relational. It's them telling him how good the school is. And so who knows how that'll all unfold that'll all unfold the way it's supposed to. The point to your question is this is part of the reason why there's a link here. And I would encourage all of you all, to the degree, Jim, that this is a message that you want put out, is that it's all about just incremental improvements every day. Not about the big, right? It's not about the big home runs and all that stuff. Yeah, that happens on occasion, but it's just, and so what happens is when you have an institution like JMU that is an extraordinary institution, just keep making incremental improvements and keep it relational, keep the heart in the center, and that's why Gabriel's there, and ultimately, if Lucas ends up at JMU, that's why he'll be there. All right, I got to give a postscript. I wasn't going to do this. I got to give a postscript. Can you imagine? Lucas is 16. Could you guys imagine being 15 years old and being recruited by the president of your local state school of 22,000 people? Jim sits down with Lucas at a football game last fall and gives him the pitch. Jim, I'll never forget it. It's amazing. All right, enough of that.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely want to redeem the time, and I know
I was trying to unmute. I just need to say, this is an impressive young man, and I absolutely should be recruiting him with every bit that I have, and I'm known to be relentless. But my gosh, they're both impressive young men, but for his age, man, he stretched me, so I enjoyed that, and I hope all of you got a chance to meet this exceptional guy.
Thanks, Jim. We're blessed.
Co-chairs, I'd also love to give the opportunity if there's any question on your mind from your committees. Obviously, we have Mike's incredible time, and who's a successful local business owner. Lots of good ideas. But I also know we can. I think probably one more question would be helpful if we have one.
And I know the rector is on as well, and
okay.
She was with us yesterday in case she had any comments or wanted to chime in as well.
Well, I'll chime in. Hi, I'm Liz Edwards. I'm co-chairing Vision Team 7. I've got my co-chairs Craig and Henry here with me. But as someone who's uniquely positioned to know JMU and Harrisonburg well, as we consider our campus redevelopment and consider what kind of mixed use buildings and projects we could do, where do you see some of the biggest opportunity for us to really change the heart of campus here and do something really exciting and unique to JMU?
I think she's asking you, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking Jim. Can you? I'll answer the question directly because I had an image in my mind. But can you just repeat it? The summary points quickly.
Sure, absolutely. As both a parent, a board member, a local business member, as we consider redeveloping the heart of campus, the center of campus, and rethinking what a union and a heart of campus can be for our students, where do you think are our opportunities to do something really unique that fits the Harrisonburg and JMU area well?
Shucks. Jim, do you really want me to? Jim. All right, so here's how I view it. So I'm from the Valley. I was born here in 70. I have very, very vivid memories of downtown prior to the mall being built. The mall was built in 77, 78. And so what I observed then from essentially the late 70s until I call it the mid 90s, there was a shift out of downtown over to east of town. And so it felt like the center of the community was shifting. There was then the Harrisonburg Renaissance thing, which kind of Eddie Boomball, which kind of really, in my opinion, actually did what we wanted it to do, and that was to kind of have this two polars points. But the way it feels, the way it's felt to me for the last probably 15 years is that the east side of town, there's no center to it. There's just it's very commercial. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I'm just saying that there's not this like locus of activity. And so when I first understood this vision, all I can tell you is that my goodness, I'm so incredibly encouraged, because the way it feels is that essentially it's like, I don't know, call it 45 years, it was east of town. And now it feels like maybe for the next, and please, goodness me, Jim, do you really want me to share this, Jim? If you're like, no, Mike, stop it.
I think you can talk. I think you can at least express what you're thinking about it. Yeah, I think it's okay.
Here's what I felt. Here's what I felt when I heard the vision, and that is that I experienced JMU as a city in a city. And I experienced JMU as in my opinion, of observing it for decades, JMU is the economic engine of the Shenandoah Valley, not just Harrisonburg, not just Rockingham County, but it is the economic engine. And there's something about the heart of the community, and there's something about this relational part of the community that, when I say the community, I mean the JMU community, that I've felt for quite a while, probably 20 years, maybe, no, more like 10 years. That, oh my goodness, could you imagine if there was some way we could wed these two together? Wed's the wrong word. If there was some way we could integrate them in a way where what the positives of both could come together. And so when you look at this locus to the new locus, it feels like this is the new locus, and then not separate, but together. And I got to tell you, I don't know if any of this is making sense, but my goodness, you can see it, you can feel it. And I think it's going to transform. I really do. I genuinely believe if it turns out like the way it feels, that it's going to transform, that this vision will transform our community, not just JMU, not just future JMU, but it will transform our community. That's my opinion.
It's exciting.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I hope nobody's recording, because if that's like, sometimes when I extrovert my intuition, I get in trouble. So
That was definitely broad enough.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
We're so grateful to Mike. I know Larry was on and Suzanne's been on. Jim, would you want to just give some closing thoughts? And I think this has been really helpful, Mike, especially. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I first want to thank the board for their engagement. As I said yesterday, I know of no university strategic plan that has had the kind of rich engagement from its board. And as I said yesterday, both to the internal and external audiences, that's what's going to make this plan even stronger. That we are working through it. We're showing humility all the way through it, looking for different ideas, better ideas. How can we build on one another? And it's been fun for me to watch the vision teams weave this great quilt of together with all of these ideas and marry them so one thing pushes the others. It gives me greater confidence that we can accelerate, believe it or not, action within the plan towards implementation. I've been amazed that there's been support from our alumni and from donors and members of the community. Frankly, the only thing stopping us is us being too timid. So as I've said to a couple of the public audiences, buckle your seatbelts. We've got work to do. It's going to be a ride. And I think it's going to position JMU and the community and the Commonwealth more broadly in a terrific position. By the way, I will say I've had really good feedback at the legislature as well for our focus. And knock on wood, I saw Caitlin is here. You know, the Health and Behavioral Sciences building is in the Senate bill. Thank you to our local senator and for senators across the Commonwealth for doing that. We're hoping to hear next week that the House will agree to that as well. So I think broadly our reputation is beginning to soar. So thank you. I think in the interest of time, Michael, you're generous of your time. Thank you again, Suzanne, for joining us, and for all of the folks around this. I'm quite proud of the work that continues to go into this plan. And we'll give people back about 25 minutes of their time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.